Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey, guys. Welcome back.
Ruben Bressler.
Hey, it's been a while. How's everybody doing?
It's been a minute. I am now coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Hey, nice.
And I'm so happy. And I'm so happy to be back, and it's great, and I've got the mountains, and my new apartment is fantastic, and my new neighborhood is terrific, and it is great, and thanks, everybody, for sticking with us through the rough month, honestly. We've had over the past 3 or 4 weeks here. I've missed a few shows, but we are back in action, so that's great. Nerd Girl, you had a good time at Dallas?
Yeah, DreamHack was a lot of fun. I got to hang out with some really cool people, played some trios with Dana Fisher, which is, of course, a blast. A lot of magic, a lot of good times. Nice. Real quick question for Ruben. What's the over or under? So he's been telling us that he's going to move twice a week for like 5 to 6 months. How long do you think he'll now tell us that he has moved? Like how many episodes?
Oh, that's
at least like 8, right?
Well, he's super happy to be where he is now, live from Tennessee. That's a good over under. 8 is a good number. 8 is a month of shows.
And not just live from Tennessee. He will inform us that he is now currently in Tennessee, living there. Like he's got the move. It's all happened.
I think 8 is such a good line. I think I take the under on 8. But it's really close.
It's so sweet. And man, there's so many cool restaurants here. The downtown, the whole strip next to UT has just completely changed. It's in an upgraded way, in a good way. Like everything's gotten cooler, more interesting. And
wow,
and
you just ruined the entire pre-show. People's Patreon was for nothing.
Whoa, absolute zero. Well, you can hear more about what happened and how I got mauled by a cat. In the pre-show.
Yeah, that's the pre-show content, is the gore and blood of cat mauling.
You'll get to see scabs. Now,
see some violence.
You will. If you missed our pre-show, subscribers to this channel get access to our NSFW version early, and we kick it off with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 worth of anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat. But subscribe first to get 2 chances to win, and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. That is, of course, thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. Because it is time to talk about some magic news. Goodness gracious. Wizards has done banned and restricted articles every way but loose. They have told you they're coming. They have told you they're not coming. They told you we're thinking about it. They told you some stuff we're looking at the format, and then bam, one day they just decide on June 7th that, hello, it's time to ban some stuff. So on June 7th in Pioneer, Winota Joiner of Forces is banned. Now, this was already banned in Explorer on Arena, and that's a good thing because Winota is a busted magic card. Winota breaks so many rules. But also, shockingly enough, Expressive Iteration is banned in both Pioneer and Explorer. Now, Expressive Iteration is one of the best card selection spells ever made. It was almost like an instant $5, $6 uncommon overnight. It has seen an absolute ton of play, and really for me is the first time where Wizards has expanded beyond the 1-mana cantrip to the 2-mana cantrip. We can't have preordains, we can have ponders, but now we can't even have expressive iterations.
Well, to call expressive iteration a cantrip is a disservice. I think that it draws 2 cards, right? Like it always draws 2 cards, almost always. Because turn 3 you play your land off of the iteration,
right?
It is a very rare occurrence when a paradigm shift, the type of which you're describing, occurs.
Right.
The last time that I recall a 1-mana effect jumping to 2 mana and still being busted because of just slight tweaks to it is Thought Erasure. Yeah. Traditionally, we had, Duress and Divest and, even up to Thoughtseize. Obviously, Thoughtseize is an outlier, but I think that Duress, Ostracize, that effect is perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And previously we'd had, coercion effects and we'd had like transgress the mind, but we hadn't really seen 2-mana discard. Thought Erasure really broke that mold by also adding the Surveil to it and giving a little bit of extra card selection in addition to the hand disruption. Expressive Iteration, in the same vein, in my opinion, took a Serum Visions, took a Ponder, and altered it in a very demonstrable way. You could see the bones of what used to be Telling Time or what used to be strategic planning or whatever 2-mana sorcery speed or even instant speed card selection spell you want. But Expressive Iteration pumped it up to another gear, gave it another thing going on, all for the low cost of 2 mana. And it showcased how powerful that effect could be overall, just in Standard. Much less in a format where you can take advantage of the graveyard, you can take advantage of a number of spells per turn. It's not surprising to me that it became such a powerhouse. It is surprising to me that they were like, this is not what we want to do in Pioneer. That was what was surprising to me, because I thought that had become the new Brainstorm. I thought that was just the pillar of the format now. I thought that was just like, we have Expressive Iteration decks. Turns out, no. Turns out it's a Faithless Looting as opposed to a Serum Visions.
I was surprised about the ban. I disagree with Evan about the Winota thing, but we've had the conversation a dozen times.
That's okay. It's okay.
He hates Winota with a passion, but plays Greasefang.
No, that's me. I play Greasefang.
But it was both of you.
No,
I'll
play Winota too. I like to play with broken toys, but I also like to recognize when they're broken. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
I'll build the deck, and then I'll be like, man, this is really unfair. And then when somebody plays it on me, I'm like, man, that was really unfair. Like, I get it both ways. I understand. I thought one of the most interesting parts of this ban and restricted announcement was the fact that they talk about other formats. They talk about, hey, we're looking at Standard, and Hinata Dawncrown and Lair Disciple of the Drowned are a thing. And they also kind of they also say stuff like, hey, mono green aggro is still really good, y'all, and beats up on these decks we're talking about with Hinata and Lair and trying to get 1 million mana and set up all these crazy turns when you can just beat them to death in 5 or 6. Yeah. With Modern and Legacy, and talking about how the band of Ragavan kind of, settled Legacy down a little bit from the ridiculous that is Legacy. And they're doing the best they can with what data they get from Vintage. So, but I like that. I appreciate that. Showing what they're thinking about was one of the coolest parts of this announcement.
I mean, I'm excited that, nowhere on anyone's list is Llanowar Elves ever going to get banned. So if mono green aggro is good, or mono green whatever, Devotion, Nykthos, I assume, is what the Pioneer version is. Great. I love that. I want that to be a good thing. So good on them for being like, hey, cast Llanowar Elves and we'll have a good.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest, that's what I've been doing in Explorer. Like, I've been beating people to death with mono green aggro, and it's been great. And if you're a part of our Patreon you should be a part of whether Patreon or subscribers to the channel, you should have access to the Discord. And in the Discord, there's a deck building channel and it has that mono green deck list if you want to see it. That said, as we move out of our first pick, we go to Gather the Townsfolk, thanks to our sponsor, cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory, prices, and delivery of cards for Magic Online, because Magic Online, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Magic Online is having its 20th anniversary. 20 years of Magic Online. And you know what?
Do you want to start there?
It looks like it hasn't aged a day. We can start there, because why not? It's a good segue. I can't decide if that's a that's like a huge dagger and compliment at the same time. That's very adorable. Magic Online's 20. That's man.
I mean, I remember doing the demos for it as a volunteer at the Wizards of the Coast booth. They were happy to take children volunteers to work at the booth and demo games and stuff, and they paid us in product. I got like $10 an hour in product, so that was my favorite thing. Half of TwitchCon when I was young Comic-Con would always be working at the Wizards booth, and I'd come home with like 2 new D&D books, 2 boxes of product of whatever the new Magic sets were. But yeah, I remember demoing it to people, and I still have a little thumbnail stick that says says Magic Online on it for a little thumb drive.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And I was teaching people how to pick their avatar. It was like a little angel or a little devil, and they would physically walk around, and then they would sit down at a table, and there was like a big room with a bunch of tables. And that's what the actual gameplay system was, instead of what you have now where it's like this person's waiting for a game. Yep. It was a bunch of avatars sitting at tables. That's how old I am.
I miss that. I miss that interface.
It was so silly, but it was kind of cool to see the birds of paradise like floating above the chair and whatever, and like the demonic tutor just sitting on the other side or whatever it was. I thought that was brilliant. Again,
that's awesome.
It was part of the
good story.
Yeah, it was part of the the kind of the ethos of what Magic Online was. And before Arena, there were other digital versions of Magic all the way down to Chandelar, but Magic Online was the one that really gave you the digital object that you can buy, sell, and or trade basically. And part of the reason this show exists is because it is sponsored by a company who has employees, has been around for years and years, that buys, sells, and trades these digital objects, which is still kind of incredible. Now, noted, Wizards is clearly wanting to lean into Arena very hard because they're going to make a lot more money that way. But again, the other half of this is that it also feels like they've created a monster in some ways that they can't really get rid of Magic Online. Like, they can make it a little less important, right? They can farm out the development and just have that be like a cost that just kind of hangs out there. But at the end of the day, they're going to make their money on Arena, and Magic Online is going to kind of do what Magic Online does.
Sure,
which is whatever.
Yeah.
How long?
Our sponsor Card Hoarder is going to turn 20 not too long after. I mean, I assume they got founded in like
soon thereafter. I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, soon thereafter. I would think like 2004, 2005, something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is a testament to a solid foundation that Magic Online persists to this day, even as other ways to consume Magic have fallen by the wayside.
Now, how old are y'all's oldest account if you have more than one? Can you?
Not very old.
Not very old, no? I think I made mine in 2006, maybe 2005. Maybe even back 2004, but
I think mine's going to be more like 2009.
I think mine's 14.
I mean, that's still 8 years ago.
But like I made it, I did like a draft and then never used it again. And then I got invited to, it's not Stream League. What the heck is that big thing that Wizards takes place in all the time? Irrelevant. I got invited to that, and the prize was like 50 packs. I was like, I don't know what to do with these.
Amazing.
I got some amount of value on a thing that I don't use at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you get.
I definitely drafted Time Spiral on Magic Online when the set was out.
Right, 2009 would have been around Ravnica time frame, somewhere in there.
Now that said, I also have played a lot of Moto just not on my account, and I'm usually not the pilot.
Mm.
Like I playtest with friends, we'll draft and we'll kind of just group draft, and somebody else pilots, and we talk through lines, talk about cards, like, and we would do that a bunch leading up to Grand Prix. But like, I don't usually sit and do Moto myself.
Yeah, same. I mostly am I'm a vintage player these days. Or not vintage. I'm a vintage cube player these days.
Well, luckily for you, they are giving away enough play points to any account that was made before like the day of this announcement that you can play in a free vintage cube draft right now.
Hey,
log on and
that.
Check it out, which I thought was really cool.
Very nice.
How do you know how to claim them?
I think you just log in, as I understand it.
You just log in and can claim the token.
And then I think you get the play points or whatever you can use for whatever you would like. I'm trying to find it here in the article, which
very
of course I
cool.
can't at the moment. But we were talking about it in Discord earlier because I was like, holy cow, this is a free vintage draft. That's really sweet.
Nice.
Here we go. If you don't need a Great Magic Talent or a Mythic Event token to come away with something, every account created before June 7th will receive 100 play points during the celebration. That's a free vintage cube draft for Constructed League. to go nuts. And they have the Mythic token for $25. You get basically access to everything that you'd want to play with. And or you can get a rental account from cardhoarder.com because they're great.
They're already in your account when you log in. Amazing.
Yep. Another quick thing about Card Hoarder is that they are starting to sponsor tournaments now. So nice. Even more reason to use those links.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Don't have much to say about Kaldheim Basics, the secret layer packaging. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a mistake more than it was something they're trying to do for recycling efforts.
What?
But
what even are we talking about?
This
thing. Yeah.
There was secret layer packaging that had Kaldheim Basics as its cardboard, stuff, and it was.
I think that's nothing.
That's more or less a mistake, I would argue.
We got to go back up to the top here.
Well, what is cool, we're going to go back to the top here because we want to talk about Sheldon Menery, who unfortunately had a medical scare. Ruben, you want to tell us a little bit about this one? Yeah.
So Sheldon Menery, the founder of Commander and the Commander Rules Committee emeritus and also current chairperson, had a very close brush with death, basically. He described a situation in which he had a recurrence of an infection where he had surgery to remove a tumor about 5.5 years ago. And this led to him having to miss a commitment, which was the Richmond SCG event, I believe. Mm-hmm. And is spent like a week in the hospital and seems to be on the mend. The most recent update is that he's just back to normal tweeting. So one hopes that he's back on the mend and can continue to go to future Magic events like Command Fest Indianapolis and Orlando. And hopefully he has no health problems for the foreseeable future. He's certainly had a rough go of it in his life already. So
goodness.
But yeah, best wishes to Sheldon, and hopefully, no more crazy scares like that.
Yeah, we obviously hope for a speedy recovery of all of that, and is scheduled for Command Fest Orlando. Obviously, hope he can make it, and of course, if he can, that's not a big deal. We will make sure that he's taking care of himself more than anything else. That said, let's move on here to Unfinity, that got a release date. Oh my God. October 7th, we are going to get Unfinity and its special game pieces.
Ooh.
That weren't spoiled at all months ago.
Well, listen, I am excited for that because my birthday is October 6th. So Unfinity comes out my birthday weekend, and that makes me very happy.
So we're going to do some cosplay of like some Unfinity characters.
I'll dress up as whatever this carnival barker is. I'm hoping that the art here is called Carnival Barker because it's a tiny dog dressed as someone from a 3-ring circus. I really enjoy the use of wingdings in the announcement here, and I just love unsets. So
unsets are amazing. I don't buy much product to invest in. Most of the product that you guys typically see behind me is like prize product and the creator package or whatever. But this is a set I will be investing in, not necessarily for resale, but because I want to be able to whip a box of this out at any point and draft it with my friends like 5 years from now. So I think I'm looking to pick up like in the neighborhood of like 5 cases.
Oh, wow.
And I will put those in my closet and then just kind of get to have them whenever.
Incredible.
I would not be surprised if this was called Carnival Barker in that exact fashion because Loading Ready Run helped them write a lot of the card names and flavor text and all other stuff for the cards themselves. So we're part of the creative, I guess, as you would describe it. So very excited about that and looking forward to October 7th when it finally shows up. It was supposed to be out April 1st, which gives you an idea.
Well, yeah, then there were delays.
Yeah.
Or was it? Maybe that was the joke all along.
Right.
I don't think it was, but it's fine to think that. It's cool too. So
who knows?
We got it. All right. We're here. It's the middle of the year. Who raise your hand, throw F's in the chat for anyone who has purchased a astrology secret lair. I need to know, do you exist? Who are the people behind the astrology secret lairs? Are you out there? Do you care?
It is Gemini season.
It's Gemini season. Here's a link in the chat and the show notes. You guys can go check out the picture of it and stuff. I'll have the web browser stuff fixed by next week. But regardless, there's a mountain here for Gemini. Why a mountain? I don't know. Because it has caves on it, I guess.
Is Gemini a fire sign? Is my guess. I don't actually know.
See.
But that would be my guess. My reason. Like my guess, right? Like Taurus is a fire sign, and
what's Libra? I'm a Libra, so Libras are the scales.
I'm looking
so
here.
They're not really.
Gemini is the third astrological sign in the zodiac.
Okay.
The sun transits this sign between May and June 21st. It's represented by the twins Castor and Pollux, who are figures in Greek and Roman mythology. It is a positive mutable sign.
And yeah, every month I will go, why is this here? Why did you do this? And when they end up being unbelievably expensive one day, because all I've done is make fun of who would buy these things.
Geminis are playful and intellectually curious, constantly juggling a variety of passions, hobbies, careers, and friend group. They're social butterflies.
Okay. That's
are neat. An air element. There we go. Found it.
Oh.
I tried.
Yeah, good effort.
I tried to come up with a good reason, but alas.
Well, that's because you're a Sagittarius. Nope. Hold on. I was trying to come up with a joke, but I didn't do it.
Some age of Aquarius. No.
I'm also a Libra, which is why I don't believe in astrology.
I'm an Ophiuchus because I don't believe in astrology.
Oh, that's right. Ophiuchus. Stupid. I was so dumb. You're from the Obscura family.
Look, moving on here, beyond rants about secret layers and stuff. The Double Masters 2022 is coming soon. I've gotten official previews for cool stuff at this point. I know other people have gotten theirs too. Over the next few weeks, we're going to start, revving up the engine for big, awesome reprints. Some big, awesome reprints have already been spoiled in a few spots, which is neat. And apparently there's going to be an unbelievable amount of traditional Magic art coming from the set. So for those who like to collect that stuff and put it on your walls and stick it in your, vaults forever to gain money, then sure, here it comes.
The Master sets in particular, they really like to, especially because they do so many reprints, they do so many cards that are indelible to the history of Magic. They really like to say, if we're going to reprint this crazy old card, we want there to be, provenance. We want there to be either traditional art or a beloved artist or an iconic image. If we can't get either of those things, play on the previous version of the art. And Double Masters, it seems like they're revving up to be literally twice as big as any other previous Masters expansion. So they're trying to, there's nowhere to go. I mean, they have to keep one-upping themselves at this point. And so if that means, new original art for a card that hasn't been printed in 20 years, sure.
I mean, you have a whole host of very expensive cards that you can reprint. You have a host of other cards that are going to be very sad when you open them, because that's just kind of how these products go. Even if you do pay $20 a pack, whatever crazy amount it's going to end up being, the collector box is 4 packs, which is still kind of insane. And I thought it was a lot more interesting. I still think it was a lot more interesting when it was the VIP packs. I thought these were cool. Like, you didn't have to collector pack me. I thought these were really sweet. But I guess they didn't like that for whatever reason. All I know is Double Masters is going to be sweet, and I'm looking forward to it. And congratulations. And again, it also reminds me, again, of how Flesh and Blood would literally never do this. It is they are convinced that whenever they reprint something, even regardless of how exciting or how costly it is, they make a worse version than before. They don't make a better version. Whereas now Wizards clearly, when they reprint something, they want to make it look cooler and more interesting, more exciting than the previous versions of the same card. And Flesh and Blood do literally the opposite. They want to make the reprints ugly, and they want the original versions to be the sought after, highly desired versions.
I mean, an argument could be made that like the old version is still the cool version.
Sure.
Regardless of what, you can put as many neon signs on as many promos as you want. The card that was printed in 1997 is going to be cooler than the card that was printed in 2022.
Depends, right? I mean, it depends on like, the artwork. I mean, you can look at like Sword of Fire and Ice, right? Sword of Fire and Ice, the original, is definitely cool. Has the pizzazz, but the new one with the sick lighting and the full art and all that crap, like that's rad. Like that's a rad version of the card. Anyway, moving on. New Twitter account alert. You need to be following HBM_TO. That is the Hunter Burton Memorial Tournament organizer on Twitter. Yes, it took them until 2022. No, I don't know why it took them that long. And plenty of people have discussed the event, and we've discussed the event, and we've talked about it. This is an event to help for suicide awareness and treatment and whatnot. It's happening in March next year in Hurst, Texas, as it has been doing so for years now. And it's always a good time, and you should check it out. Again, HBM_TO for that one. And last bit here before we move on to the desperatest of Ravings. David McDarby, congratulations to him, former co-worker at Star City Games, who now works at Wizards and now went from being a product manager of Magic Online to a game designer on Magic Arena. And that is super awesome to see him go from one to another. That's fantastic.
Yeah. David McDarby's great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hesitate to say one of the nerdiest people I've ever met, because there are so many nerdy people that play Magic, but if you've met David McDarby,
he's up
you know what I mean.
In the best way.
In the best way. Like the
super cool
passion and excitement and focus he has. It's no surprise that he's been bumped up. So good job.
Nice. All right. As we move on here to Desperate Ravings, check out our Altar sleeves. Goodness gracious. Support the show by using the code MagicMikes at checkout for 5% off anything in that store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mikes crew at altarsleeves.com/MagicMikes. Because I'm not even sure how to frame this next story. Rube, you want to tackle this one?
Sure, I guess.
You want to throw a hat in the ring in this one?
I will let Ruben take this one.
Okay.
I don't think I actually have a ton.
No, there's not a ton to talk about. So SCG Con happened, right?
It did.
SCG Con occurred, and there was a lot of consternation concerning Star City Games dropping vaccination requirements.
Well, it's not happened yet. This is for the Syracuse event.
Right. But so this came up again, and we've talked about this the last 3 episodes, I think.
We've spoken about it a little bit, yes.
Where, why are they doing this? Is this some sort of political message? What is the problem here? The information that we have is that SCG Con dropped vax requirements, and in a recent podcast interview with Humans of Magic, go ahead and follow at Humans of Magic. Excellent podcast. Pete Heffling, the president and CEO and founder of Star City Games, defended the decision, let's say, in colorful terms. And it was not received particularly well by the community. However, the information for you to listen to it is out there already. I will say that most recently, SCG Richmond seemed to, from the responses that I saw to SCG Richmond, seemed to be not like anti-vax or anything. They were within much the same way that a lot of tournaments are run. They were within the rules of the state that they would be allowed to use, is what it seemed to me. So while there is some wild conjecture going on, and while Pete Heffling went on the Humans of Magic and appeared to yell at clouds for what he felt was a misrepresentation by the media, such as us, about the politics of Star City Games, or perhaps the care that Star City Games has for COVID safety protocols. Whatever that is, all of the text and audio that, if you wish to dig into it deeper, is available, and you can go dig into it yourself.
Yeah, people were not happy. People, basically, the general consensus is that he said all the quiet parts out loud in the in the interview is the best way I can describe it. And yeah, people are not happy, but also people are just really kind of down on Star City for like dropping the writers and all sorts of things. I will say there, was no mask or vaccine mandate for DreamHack, and Magic had a pretty big presence at DreamHack, and I didn't hear anything about that. So I think they should have the vax mandate, but again, I don't know why it's weird that Star City's not doing, but big things like DreamHack aren't. But the Magic community just seems to be more okay with that.
Well, I think it was it was certainly it was an interview. I would say there's a few things. One is if you say quote unquote the Magic community before you say Magic community, and every time you say quote unquote, that don't look good. And to say that all the people who are concerned are disingenuous, also not great. It just kind of got worse. I think the issue that doesn't appear to be understood, and I've mentioned this every single time, is that they lowered the restrictions when they did not have to. They were not forced to in any way. They decided amongst themselves, and that was
right.
Part of their reasoning was amongst themselves. They decided, and had they not changed them, I don't think we would literally even be talking about it. I swear,
no, we wouldn't be talking about it at all. It does look bad.
That's what happened.
I do worry that the response. Clearly, the response to the response was bad. Clearly, the initial decision led to all of this. But the response to the lowering of the second step of the three terrible things that happened, I feel like was blown out of proportion. I do feel like perhaps we gave SCG too much crap.
Well, so that was my original point. Not that the uproar for the interview was too bad, because that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I was saying the reason he said the things he said in the interview is because I felt like the Magic community was, possibly, and again, I think they should have it and everything as well. But when you're comparing that to DreamHack, which again has a pretty big Magic thing, DreamHack is going to be in Atlanta soon with a big championship event, right? Coming up. That also has no mask or vaccine mandate, but we're not hearing anything about it. Right. So maybe people going after them is what kind of made that interview go the way that it did, just because it feels like it might have been a little bit of an attack. A bit,
and I also feel like some of it is, what you're able to do. Not so kind of sort of mention that there are other events like other Command Fest events that don't have those vaccine requirements because legally they cannot be put in place. They can't. The state will not let you put in those requirements.
So I think it's not unfair for Pete to go on the Humans of Magic and say, I think that SCG was perhaps unfairly targeted.
That's fair.
I think that that's a perfectly reasonable statement.
Sure.
I think that if he had stopped there, it would have been fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
if that had been, thank you. We appreciate that. Handshake. See you later.
I think that so many missteps were made along the way by so many people, but here we are, right? SCG should never have actually, let me rephrase. I don't know what SCG should have done because I'm not in their offices and I don't know what the facts are. So maybe their decision to drop mandates are based in some world of fact. Maybe I'm not trying to make
we're
value judgment
we're
here.
certainly not trying to explain the inners of anything. We're saying that like from the outside in.
I don't know why they changed their requirements. The fact is that they didn't explain why, and then expected everyone to be okay with it. That was bad. The second thing that happened was the Magic community got a hold of it, and as the Magic community does, they made a they made a whole big deal out of it.
Right.
And that was also bad.
Yeah, they made it the main character of Twitter that day.
Right, and that was also not great.
Right.
Then the response to the response was, "How dare you, nail me to this cross?" Which is a bit much. So everyone overreacted the whole time. So here we are. Go to the event or don't. This is significantly less of a story than it has been made out to be in the last 3 episodes of Magic Bikes, in my opinion.
Yeah, it became more of, a focus on bullying and like online bullying and cancel culture and all this other stuff that just turned into a whole hot mess. And again, feel free to check that out if you'd like to. There's lots of chatter also on the web about it. Speaking of chatter on the web and things we were unhappy about, so Jumpstart is coming with every new set, starting with Dominaria United. I, again, think this is brilliant. I think Jumpstart is one of the best products that they've made in the last 10 to 15 years. I can't think of a better one that wasn't Arena. But the idea that you can open packs, shuffle them, and then just start playing Magic is brilliant. However, the new booster box, or the new Jumpstart booster box for Dominaria United, is going to have 18 packs in it instead of 24, which the current ones have. And they note here that on Amazon, they are being sold for arguably around the same price. And I want to quickly note here that Amazon can put whatever number Amazon wants on a product for pre-order. And in the real world, from what people are actually seeing from the distributor, the cost is lower by some double-digit percentages from set booster boxes because there are going to be less packs in it. So you're free to spend your money wherever you want, and you can pre-order it on Amazon, obviously, if you'd like. But note that it is very likely that is going to be a very high price looking back, not a deal that you got, let alone Wizards trying to get you by, putting 18 packs versus 24. But in reality, the price of the product really does appear to be lower than what it used to be. So.
And can we just also say, please don't pre-order from Amazon?
Yeah.
If you're buying paper product, it's real nice places to play.
Yeah.
I know this is a different thing, but
it's worth bringing up.
We need those places to play. And also buying product from Amazon in general is a bad practice because there is a lot of repacking going on. The pre-orders, maybe not so much, but the way Amazon works is they get a bunch of product in from a bunch of stores or individual people. It goes into a giant big crate, and then you get a random box, and then they have no idea where that box came from and who repacked it. So support your local game stores, find places to play.
Yeah, your local game store is going to get it from a distributor who is never going to repack their stuff. You're going to be supporting your local economy. You're going to be supporting your local store to exist.
Yeah.
These are all wonderful things. So, if you're stuck in the middle of Montana and there is no store for 300 miles, okay, I understand. But, there's also online retailers like CoolStuff.com.
But you can
if there's
still
an FLGS,
support online.
If there's an FLGS, man, get your FLGS up. Let's do this. But again, I think that this one might be this is a good example of not necessarily misinformation, but, weird
misinterpretation.
Misinterpretation is a good way to put it. Because again, Amazon can put whatever number they want. They could pre-sell for $200 if they wanted to, whatever. But, when the real world kicks in and your local store starts offering and your other online retailers start offering the product, let's take a look at when those prices hit versus whatever Amazon puts up as its pre-order number. Ridiculous. So this last bit here for the segment is Hareruya, which is a card shop over in Japan that has been ran by Tomoharu Saito for many years, as far as I know. They put out a statement here. Apology for misconduct of former president and CEO and appointment of new president and CEO. They say here, as reported recently, Tomohiro Saito, our former president and CEO, has been referred to prosecutors for involvement regarding illegal gambling. We sincerely apologize to all concerned, as well as our customers, for the inconvenience. At a meeting of the board of directors, they accepted Saito's offer to resign, and they're announcing that Futoshi Iwata, another Hall of Famer, as I recall, has been appointed as president following his resignation. And there is a YouTube video where Saito apologizes in Japanese, which is also kind of surreal in many ways. And damn, just kind of came out of nowhere, quite frankly.
I don't really understand. So the first thing to understand is that gambling is a much bigger deal or illegal gambling is a much bigger deal in Japan than it is here. This feels like I read it and I was like, I don't understand what the problem is. But it is a much bigger deal culturally in Japan. And that's basically all I have to really say about it.
That's fine. Again, I don't think there's a whole lot to be like unearthed here, other than, man, remember Tomohiro Saito? And where he went and like Saito, he was one of the OG overseas backpack dealers. Like Saito would come in and he would buy a ton of singles for the Japanese market, or he would sell you a ton of singles, Japanese foils, Japanese whatever, to dealers and whatnot. And at Grand Prix, he was very well known for this. And eventually, from what I can tell here, started his own business, in the country.
Yeah.
So next thing
this is a move to save this is just a saving face business move.
Yeah, I read the title of the apology for misconduct, and I was thinking something real bad was going to happen, and then I was just like, oh, okay, I
don't know enough about Japanese business culture to tell you. So
it actually kind of I'm actually really happy that it wasn't something insanely scandal ridden, because you're right, this person was a staple in the Magic community at Grand Prix and tournaments and things for a very long time. So I'm glad there was no puppy fighting ring or whatever going on. So it's sad to see them step down, that something illegal was happening, but also it almost feels like a good thing, like the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean it was just wild because for me, basically having seen Saito move his way up through buying and selling Magic singles, right? And then eventually getting to the Hareruya store, and then having, pros that were sponsored by him and whatnot. All that stuff came on board, and all that's changing. All right, a little splash damage here for the week. Ruben, you ready to be the VP of D&D?
Oh my God.
To map out 20 years, what do they say, for the next 40 years or something crazy?
This is the wildest job listing I've ever seen.
It's crazy.
This is absolutely insane. So this is a job listing for Vice President of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh my God.
You need to have 10 years leading franchises. I don't understand the number of people that could feasibly apply for this job.
Who's the actual number of people in the world that could take this job and actually, you know what I mean? This feels like there's a planet right there and they're looking for Atlas, and you're like, how many Atlases are there in the world?
So there's probably something like 1,000 people that could feasibly have this job.
Oof.
And 90% of them aren't going to even remotely look at this job because they're super happy being the world builder for Mario or being the story lead for a Hollywood studio, right? That's the kind of people that we're talking about here. Comic book, story people. The kind of person that's going to get this job is going to be a name we've heard of before. One assumes.
Yeah, well, I mean, or a name that has really made itself known in the wherever they're from, right?
Right.
Whatever they're from, whether it's whether it's plays,
they're going to come from
film
Bungie
or television.
Or something. Yeah.
Right. Other,
So it's a wild job listing. It's a cool job listing, and this is a dream job of dream jobs for somebody out there. I mean, you look at all of the influence that Dungeons and Dragons has on today's popular culture, from things like Stranger Things to literally a Dungeons and Dragons movie that's coming out. you get to drive that as the vice president of Dungeons and Dragons. You get to inspire the next generation of storytellers. You get to be the next people that inspire the Duffer Brothers and the next Marvel Cinematic Universe that's going to come out in 30 years. And you get to be someone who inspires that in people. It is an absolute dream to be the Merlin behind the future King Arthurs of fantasy and storytelling.
Yeah, and whatever they're not doing themselves, I'm sure they are picking, hand-selecting the people that are doing those things. The people who decided to turn magic into a D&D setting. Like, those are the things and the decisions that are going to be made. So, it's a big deal. And I've been playing D&D for, 25 years. So I'm excited, but also scared.
The first sentence of what you'll do is to set the North Star vision for the next 50 years of D&D.
Yeah.
Like, whew. No pressure.
Exactly. So this job is specifically trying to replace probably Mike Merles and Chris Perkins.
Okay.
Right? They're trying to those guys are both getting up in age. They're going to retire someday. This would be like if there was a VP for Magic and you could definitely tell that it's who is replacing Mark Rosewater, right? Like that's the job listing.
Wow.
The fact that it's a public listing is wild to me. The fact that it's not just someone from inside is crazy.
They're not headhunting someone. Basically.
Well, that too. Yeah.
And
I would have thought that this would have been headhunting, not necessarily from within, just because it's such a big position that I don't know that they would have wanted somebody.
This is
they wouldn't want someone who wasn't necessarily just stepping down. I would think that they would prefer that, because didn't the VP of Hasbro was like some kind of hot shot somewhere else too?
Yeah,
he was
VP of Hasbro.
Microsoft.
Yeah, was a Microsoft and Leapfrog guy.
Yeah.
So I feel like they would headhunt someone in like a big way that in a similar vein.
I would say
it's weird that it's just a public posting.
Yeah.
And the fact that the last part of what you'll bring is a strong agent for change, accustomed to accountability and driving improvement within teams and all that good stuff. That's super duper corporate of just like, you got to put your balls out there on the line and be this is what posting, I want to do. This
is wild to me. Like it's wild. Is posting publicly on LinkedIn to hire like
the VP of Nike or something. Like,
right.
What are you doing?
Or general manager of the New York Yankees. Like just absolutely. This is the biggest job I've ever seen a public posting for.
Yeah. I would put that. Look, and to my little tiny thoughts for this one, if I had any, would be that I think D&D should invest more in celebrities. I don't think they're doing enough with celebrity involvement with D&D. Like when big movies come out, they should have D&D campaigns. Little tiny one shots, right?
Interesting.
For Top Gun Maverick, you could be a Top Gun pilot, and that would be your little D&D, tie-in with the movie, right? And
so they've done some of that.
And the other bit is I would say that their onboarding sucks. I think D&D's onboarding's crap. I think it's hard to, if I can't give someone who isn't knee deep and knowing how gaming works and tabletop gaming works, if I can't give them instructions on how to go and they can't go, I feel like they can't go. I've tried it myself with the starter set and I've been like, Ruben, I can't X, Y, and Z. And you've been like, oh, you just have to do, this and this and this. And that's awesome. But not everyone has Ruben. So. Yeah.
Wow. Evan finally gets why we don't want every single keyword in every single set.
Hey.
Wow.
Hey. I don't like this.
So here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about Dungeons and Dragons books. I'm going to take this in a slightly different direction because we're talking about D&D right now, but I want to speak to an issue that you talked about.
Sure.
Which is it's hard to onboard new folks who want to run a campaign. Yeah. And that's partially because the way that adventures are written, not the handbook, not the monster manual, not the Dungeon Master's Guide, the adventures, the way the adventures are not written to be ran. They are written to be read. And the reason why is if they were written to be ran, the only person who would have to buy the book is the DM. But if they're written to be read, then everybody wants to buy the book so that they can read the book. And that's why there's a whole bunch of extraneous BS in these D&D books that paint a beautiful picture. that have nothing to do with running a game of Dungeons and Dragons. So they're sort of, I wish that there were two different books. Personally, I know this is not possible. I wish there was this is the DM's book.
Right, the Dungeon Master
this
guide.
is the story book.
Right.
I wish there were two. There aren't.
And again, that's the type of stuff that, you would have to go out there and say, this is what we're going to do now, And sometimes you make it happen and sometimes you get Gleemax. So,
right.
Good luck.
What a reference. Jeez.
I know, right? That cuts deep. So real faster, we did talk about on the show many weeks ago about Alta Fox trying to get directors of Hasbro directors changed out. That did not work at all. Whether it was their argument, the way they had their argument, or the way they phrased it, or the way it was taken, it doesn't matter. The Hasbro board of directors were all reelected, defeating the effort by Alta Fox Capital Management to shake up its roster. And they're not going to spin off Wizards of the Coast to its own company or any of that other stuff they wanted to do.
Yeah.
GG.
I mean, we're not surprised.
No.
I mean, they can try again next year if they want to.
Yeah.
I mean, if they buy up, like, I don't know, like another like 10% or something, maybe. But
Sure.
when we read that the first week, I was like, this is absurd. Like, this is.
It was rich people fighting, okay? And it's weird when it's like rich people fighting.
It didn't even seem like rich people fighting. It felt like someone yelling at rich people, like a crazy person yelling at rich people to like redistribute their wealth.
Yeah.
And like, what's the rich person going to do? Like, do it? Like, it just seemed so out there to me.
It definitely moved away from like a reasonable thing and moved into 1980s Gordon Gekko economy BS at some point. It definitely moved to a point of like, but seriously, it moved to like a cartoon. It moved to like Martin Shkreli BS for a second.
Right.
You're like, what are we even doing here?
Like millionaires yelling at other millionaires, this group that owns, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars worth of stock. Like, it gets a little absurd after a while. And then, to see like their arguments of trying to change things, and it's hard to prove a negative. You know what I mean? Like, how much money are they not making because Wizards isn't spun off by itself? But like, they don't want to, mess the train up that much to see, if you're right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. Last little bit here. Go ahead.
The idea that how much money are they not making? I mean, Wizards was its own thing for a very, very long time, and they never made the amount of money they're making now. So, yes, I think that the idea was that breaking them apart would make for a better game, not necessarily for more money, which is not what Hasbro has any interest in doing.
Exactly. Hasbro is in the business of making money.
I thought it was about making more money, but either way. Quick congrats to Max Kahn, one of the well-known judges in the community. Is now working with the 49ers. Look at that. The San Francisco 49ers is a business intelligence analyst.
Yeah, very cool for Max. I've hung out with Max at dozens of Magic events.
I've seen him at many more. Yeah.
Great member of the community, and good luck in the National Football League.
Hell yeah. Let's go. All right. Well, that said, let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Officially, over the course of DreamHack Dallas, we were reminded of the greatest gift of recent Magic Twitter. MTG Nerd Girl is the Chuck Norris of MTG streaming. With this knowledge in mind, tell me your best MTG Nerd Girl fact, Ruben.
Well, as you know, MTG Nerd Girl doesn't have to cast Brainstorm. She doesn't have to activate Sensei's Divining Top. All she has to do is stare at her deck until it gives her the information that she wants.
Just like that.
It's true.
Nerd Girl?
So whenever I'm streaming, my Tribal Flames always hits for 5 because Twitch is my domain.
So they got the whole domain. You even argue it hits for 6, right?
Automatically. Oh, that's true.
MTG Nerd Girl chose her name not because she plays Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering chose its initials because of MTG Nerd Girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad we're back.
We are back in action, and it's awesome. We're going to move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our sponsors, CardHoarder.com and Ultra Sleeves, my co-host, MTG Nerd Girl, and Ruben Bresser. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.